What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer, taking a look at my most recent Monarch list. And back in the day, I used to play this with Eldritch, and unfortunately, Power Creep has kind of done its thing, and that Eldritch engine has now been replaced with the Horus engine. So it all starts off with this card right here, City Glory of the Horus. Basically, you can discard a card, you get to add the continuous spell, and you also get to draw a card on top. So it's obviously a nice little draw engine there, and helps you get closer and closer to your domain lock, which is obviously what you're trying to do. So yeah, I'm going to go over the rest of these cards, and then I have some gameplay after that I will showcase. I only run one of the Hoppy. You could run, obviously, a much bigger package, but to be honest with you, they're mostly used as tribute fodder and also just to come back every time. And the other Horus cards, just like, for the purpose of not having an extra deck, don't really do anything other than like maybe giving you some more monsters. But you don't have a infinite discard fodder in this deck. So I did try it before playing a bunch of them, and to me, it wasn't worth it. I really like this card because it helps you add things back to your hand, and that can go really well for later stages in the game. It can interrupt your opponent too. This is Ether, of course, right? The best Monarch. Sends 2 to the graveyard, which is almost always going to be the prime Monarch, and then Pantheism. I can't wait till some new Monarch support comes out, and like this card can finally go away. It's okay, but yeah, it's just so dated, obviously, and that's a big issue. 1 copy of Erebus. So this card can bring out another copy of itself. And then during your opponent's turn, ideally, right, if you're playing something like, like a trap-based deck, and then you can do Aether to summon itself again during your opponent's turn, and then bring out Dark some more, right? Your opponent cannot set cards, which can just help you win matchups. And otherwise, it's just a card that you tribute summon, and, any set cards, which is kind of interesting. So if your opponent's playing some sort of weird deck that's like sets monsters, you obviously can't do that either. And then Erebus is just kind of like generically good. Right, shuffling cards back. There's a lot of non-targeting removal in this deck, which I guess is pretty nice. 3 copies of Fenrir. It's a free body. It replaces itself. You can also use it as a tribute, right? If you have Fenrir and Souls, well, then you just set up a tribute summon, and hopefully you have like the other piece of your engine. Magician Souls is pretty good. It's very good for the draw engine in this deck. It can actually send Glory of the Horus, which is awesome. So if you already have Sarcophagus in your hand, and you don't want to discard 2 to get both of your Horus monsters there, you can use Magician Soul's effect not to send, Illusion of Chaos. You can, use it to send this card, and that's a pretty good interaction there. And also, if you're in the later stage of the game and you really need to, like, maybe finish things out, or you're desperate, you can send King Sarcophagus after you've used the effect to special summon these cards. 3 copies of Kaiju. It's a tribute summonable monster. It's also interruption during your opponent's, or I guess, some form of interruption. There aren't a lot, but, like Fenrir is interruption, the Kaijus are interruption, so it's kind of weird how the deck works, and, traditional, like, interruption is kind of bizarre, and you'll see that more in the replays where, yeah, like, most decks obviously try to stop you from doing things in the extra deck, and that's kind of, like, the main focus of end boards, but there is no, like, anything like that for this because there is no extra deck. And this is a new tech card that I've been playing, and I really, really like it. Cosmo Dark Lady. So I used to run the one that doesn't let you activate any monster effects at all. The important part, this is a level 5, so level 5 or level 6s are the best ones because you only need a single tribute. And getting a single tribute is so easy on the board. 2 can, every once in a while would be difficult. But yeah, this is one of the only tribute monsters. First of all, it's 2200 attack, which is respectable. But yeah, it has a monster negate, and it does destroy. It's not just a monster negate. And I used to run a few other cards like Levy, and you could do that. There's the Luminous Star Dragon or whatever it's called. It lets you take opponent's monster, but at the same time, like, you're getting rid of your tribute summoned monster, so that's kind of bad. I mean, it works really well with the Monarch's Erupt, which I guess is pretty nice. But yeah, this has been a really good tech card that I've been, messing around with. Antimafrofrit, I like to call this. I don't know. It used to be called Unicamofly was the initial translation for this, but it just made it the weirdest word ever. But it does let you draw a card. It's Upstart Goblin, but as a form of a monster. So helps you dig into your deck. It gives you tribute summon fodder. You don't want 3 copies of it because that's just too much. But 2 has been like the perfect ratio that I've noticed. 2 copies of Illusion of Chaos. 3 copies of Pantheism. This card's still pretty good, right? If you get Ash, you kind of just lose, but it is what it is. 3 copies of King Sarcophagus. This is a card that brings all these things back. It's also non-targeting removal, which is great. And it can also help you discard cards like Pantheism. 3 copies of Domain, 1 copy of Change of Heart. I don't really know how I feel about this card. It's okay. 2 copies of the Prime Monarch, and then 3 copies of the Monarch's Erupt. There's a few cards I guess worth mentioning in the side, and Solemn Judgment has like secretly been a good tech card when you know you're going first when you're playing a match. Ghost Ogre is really just for those face-up spells and trap cards. Like when I was playing ranked, all I was playing was like Runics, and of course like a lot of your opponents could be playing like King Sarcophagus. So instead of playing like Cosmic Cyclone, I think it's like more important to play something like this. I do run Spell Canceller. Now it does cancel your spell effects too, which the only thing that's really relevant for is Domain. So that kind of stinks. Like if you did have the lock going, you would just like mess yourself up basically. But it does work really well if the Monarchs are up, because like cards like Dark Ruler doesn't really do anything, but like Lightning Storm and just your opponent having spell cards, right? Most of the time you're just sitting on the field spell, like praying your opponent doesn't have the out. But sometimes it's nice to have cards like this that kind of guarantee that victory. And of course, right, Pantheism searches you whatever you want. You can reveal all three of these. So if you did have this in your hand, you would have the choice. But I'm sure every once in a while, like these two would come up, and that would suck really bad. But I do think it's worth playing, because if you are playing Runic, it is an auto win button. Your opponent just pretty much scoops, and that's obviously a good thing. 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Like I said, I kind of like this card, and no surprises here, I'm sure, right? It doesn't. Again, it's actually the opposite. So these cards are really funny, but Jinzo does negate your trap cards, but it doesn't negate spells. So if you can get this going and you're playing against something like Lab, or you're just playing Lab in general, right? You can just like take out a bunch of these cards that don't really matter and just play Jinzo. This is a game-winning card against other decks too. And then I do run Nib. Nib's pretty good, right? You can also tribute summon it. It's also like one of the better parts. If you're going first, you can at least still tribute summon Nibiru in the worst case scenario. But yeah, that's the deck. So let me go ahead and show you some of the replays here. This is against Chimera. It doesn't have a great matchup, and I get, Chimera's, I don't think this deck really has a great matchup against anything, because it's just such a weird, wacky deck. But yeah, Chimera's okay, especially if you're going first, right? You have a major advantage. You're going to get to draw a card there. Now this is unfortunate, I guess, is where the Horus, like you could extend the package, but at that point, it doesn't really do anything other than give you one more body. But yeah, I was able to discard that. Get myself set up, and yeah, you can't go into the extra deck, so that normal summon Fallen of Albaz isn't going to help you. Yeah, you had double, basically, of the cards, and I did have a card leave the field, so I'm going to shuffle back a couple of his Runic cards in case he had, like, the Fountain or something, so he can't draw more. And yeah, this is a monster negate, and I don't think he realized that. Yeah, it's infinite tribute fodder, which, of course, is the cool thing here. And I can get over his board, right? You're going to be able to do a lot of stuff. I can go ahead and negate that. And I'm in like a very commanding position, kind of. I mean, these cards do have effects if anything leaves the field. This is a monster negate. This banishes something face down. And there we go. Like this really comes up, and especially in simplified game states, really, it's kind of just like game winning. This doesn't have a card in his hand to use. I didn't actually have the life points for it, but it didn't matter. And even if he did have a card in hand, like I did have the Horus cards, which I think would have made a big difference. And I don't really even know what else he could have gone into for the fusion summoning, but it's not like I had anything from the extra deck on the board. This is against Hero, and yeah, like going second, of course, is like definitely a weakness, but like that's feels like every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh now. He's gonna go for some like hero stuff. I don't think he gets to go into the Dark Law, but that's okay because I did have the Gamma-Sil anyways. I think he is gonna go into the Absolute Zero, which is fine because I just start out with the Kaiju, and then like I don't have any monsters to destroy, even though it's a mandatory effect. If I had Triple Tactics Talent, that'd be pretty sick. And maybe the deck does need something like that, like instead of Change Heart, you just play Triple Tactics Talent, which kind of does the same thing. It's probably the objectively right choice. I think I had an extra copy of Cosmo in my hand, and now like basically his entire game plan's over. He did try to activate Nibiru. Funny enough, I did summon that many times, but yeah, Dark Lady, which is a very silly name, helped me out here. Without being able to go in the extra deck, I'm not really sure what he's going to be able to do. Even if he's playing something dumb like Marshmallow on him, I can like get rid of it, right? Sarcophagus doesn't, can just like send it right off the field. This is again like if I was going first, this was a match, and like if you get your domain set up, then what is your opponent really going to do? And this helps you just draw deeper into the deck. Seeing Fenrir kind of stinks, but it is just discard fodder at the end of the day, so that wasn't really anything too crazy. So I'm going to be able to get all of those guys on the board, and I can actually use Ether here. Search the field spell, so I have the double lock going. Plus, if anything leaves the field, I do have some backup. I don't know I might as well wait, right, to activate this. And it does kind of stink because your Horus cards are offline now, but at the end of the day, they're just kind of like skill drain bodies. They come back infinitely, and then you can just discard again. Top deck of Fenrir. So that card can still be used, right? It was tribute summoned. Keep bringing things back. And yeah, it's so cool. Like, this card doesn't even like restrict you from special summoning like at all, basically, because it's not like from different names that you control. It's like you can only special summon the name once per turn. GXer bodies actually do end up coming into play towards the end. He had forbidden droplets, but it wasn't enough to save his life points. And then here's like a bunch of, you know, lab matchups. I guess I'll probably just show a few. Yeah, it actually has like a strangely good matchup against Labyrinth because it just does everything that other decks, like, I don't know, like its interruption just isn't great. Like, it does, normally they go into Epidemic Virus, but I'm only playing a handful of spell cards, and those spell cards aren't like particularly impactful. He's gonna like activate 1,000 cards. It's like chain like 1,000 with the furniture cards in Labyrinth. It's like, I couldn't imagine playing this in real life. It would kind of just be annoying. I'd have to read all the cards all the time. At some point, I'll learn what all these cards do. I know like what the big names do, and I know what this one does too. The furniture names confuse me though. I think one sets from the deck, one lets you activate a trap card or something, but all right, I'm going to go ahead and bring that back, and I can tribute summon here. I'm going to go for the Erebus. I think he did search a card, like one of the Mirror Force cards, so I had to get rid of that. I didn't really have any other outs, and I'm going to be able to clear his board. Like, you're going to have huge-bodied monsters on here, and off we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and negate that. I don't really know why he ended up scooping necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of things that, like, I guess he could have done, but I mean, maybe I was just so far ahead in card advantage, he scooped. But these are a couple more, you know, interesting ones, and of course, right, this is where Jinzo comes into play. Like, your opponent kind of just loses, right? How are you going to Ash an Upstart Goblin, by the way? It's kind of insane. It's definitely some click turbo. But, you know, the field spell is just okay, I guess. And, you know, I really don't even need it, so I'm just, like, kind of getting rid of it. Because this is really the only card that matters. I mean, I guess against Super Poly, I know, like, some lab lists play that. But, yeah, like, he can't activate Bewilcome. He will in a moment, but, yeah, this is going to trigger a few things. I had some cards leave the field, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of his trap card. And now he just, like, has one guy on the board. And, like, what are you going to do there? He has another Ash. That's fine. I can draw another card here. And he's going to, like, send that back to the hand. That's going to trigger this again. Anytime a card from my field leaves, right, I get to activate this. And I can just, like, get Jinzo again. And then, you know, starting right where we left off. And, of course, he just kind of quits after that. So one more game against Lab. Again, he's going to have, like, every card in the book here. All of his furniture, which I think is a good thing. Okay, so he's going to activate Big Welcome Labyrinth, and there goes Eradicator. So he's going to pop, I think, 2 cards out of my hand. So this is like a perfect opening for Labyrinth, at least from what I've seen. I guess I don't know that much about Labyrinth, but, you know, being able to take 2 cards out of my hand. All monsters, I guess, are banished from now on. Yeah, no spell cards in my hand. And there goes the Horus card. Okay, so I'm going to add the Sarcophagus. Special summon the Fenrir. Fenrir, of course, is like super duper important. I can, you know, bring those 2 out. Like, all my monsters are banished, but I just, like, happen to have both in my hand at the time. So that didn't actually make a difference. And I'm pretty sure, like, his monsters he wants to have in the graveyard. But he's going to go for silver. I have a monster negate. Like, your opponent probably just doesn't read these cards. He's going to bring that back, but that's going to trigger the Hoppy. The Hoppy is so nuts, right? I'm going to shuffle back his, like, furniture cards so he can't use them or bring them back. He's going to set full Force Virus, but he can't activate it. I think he's going to just, like, destroy the card, but I'm just going to bring it back to my hand. Like, how many times do you need to see that card triggered before you understand what I'm doing? But, I don't know. Hopefully he learned his lesson at that point. But, yeah, that's going to do it for this video today. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Other than that's going to do it for today's video, and I will see you guys next time.